I have a question for you. Is the DR becoming too Americanized? I've been traveling back and forth to this country for 10 years now, and if it's one change I notice, it's America's impact on the everyday person. Are Dominican Americans unknowingly bringing ideas, money, and other things that are unintentionally hurting the everyday person? Or is the easy accessibility for tourists and expats the real culprit? How much America is too much America before it hurts the identity of a country? In this video, we'll be going over the top changes I've seen influenced by America, and I'll be telling you if I think it's good or bad for the country. Alright guys, number one is going to be media and entertainment. To be honest guys, this probably is one of the biggest ones. When I first started coming here, generally speaking, the average Dominican couldn't tell me any show that was coming on in America, especially if it wasn't Spanish speaking. Now that I think of it, Dominicans have always had an interesting relationship when it comes to entertainment and TV. Unlike Mexico and Colombia, who dominate the novella world, the DR never had that Hollywood push, so to say. So they've always been forced to kind of watch in-house entertainment. And that's why YouTube is so big here. YouTube was one of the first spaces that the average Dominican could go online and see people that look like them, talk like them, and were from where they were from. Man, all that has changed. Like, when I say they watching everything on YouTube, on Netflix, on Prime, they in the loop. I mean, I could be talking to somebody and just asking them, what they doing, what they watching, and I'm thinking they're going to tell me something like Planeta a la Folke or something like that, something at least Spanish speaking. But more and more I'm getting answers like Beauty and Black, The Polygamist, all of these shows that I never imagined somebody here watching. And like I said, we got to give credit to Netflix, we got to give credit to YouTube, Prime, and all of these stations that actually are making these things accessible to more of the world. Which obviously pushes us into the good or bad conversation, right? Like, is this good or is this bad for the DR? For me, I mean, I can't call it. I think it's a little bit of both. One, I always think it's good to get new channels of information, new channels of media, new channels of whatever, having those ideas come in and being able to diversify the way you think. If not, you're going to have somewhat of like an isolationist kind of mindset or be an isolationist nation, which I think in the overall grand scheme of things is not where we want to go as a worldly community. So when you look at the shows and movies coming from these platforms, you're getting some of the best directors, some of the best storylines, some of the best visuals that's out there. Again, being from the US, I think it's something that we don't understand how privileged we are to have. At the same time, I think it could be negative in the fact that there's no filtering. I think just putting out blanket ideas without some type of filter or some type of person saying, hey, this is sarcasm, or this is just, satire, or, this is just a funny stereotype that we're talking about, but it's not true for everybody. It could get a little dangerous because that's molding and shaping people's ideas of other cultures, especially when we talk about the two shows I named, like Beauty and Black and Polygamist, or however you say it. I think those are potentially dangerous shows when you're putting them in front of audiences who don't know how to filter out what's true, what's a joke, what's false, etc., etc. Look, I've never seen the Polygamist show. I've never seen that. I've seen it going crazy. Everybody watching it. Not even just in DR. I think globalization in general is just right now the thing. The world's getting smaller. Ideas are just bouncing off the wall and everybody's seeing everybody. What I don't know is how much the creators are thinking about these international audiences. And you think back at people like Chappelle, shows like that, where once the creator realized, well, this is having this type of impact and certain people are getting the wrong idea about the jokes I'm making or the type of art I'm creating, maybe I need to step back because it's doing more harm than good. Super over-sexualized content, stereotypes off the wall, generalizations, sexuality references as far as, heterosexual, homosexual, all of that stuff. We ain't gonna get too much into it, but you guys know if you watch those shows. Mix that with a country that's very, very traditional, has traditional ideas about, gender roles and things like that, and you start introducing all of this stuff, it can get tricky, especially when you think about how these things are impacting a society which is creating them, right? It's kind of like putting the poison inside of the ingredients. So, what I'm saying? We've already consumed it. Now we want to pass it on to the next country for them to deal with the same problems, because it's ideas that we've proven that they're not working, and they actually are the most divisive things in our society. And we talk about, genders and he, him, her, and, feminism, all these super deep themes that we're now packaging off and selling them to the world. All right, guys, number 2 on this list is going to be the amount of things quoted in dollars. Now, you got to remember, when I first started coming to this island, I didn't go to Punta Cana, I didn't go to Puerto Plata, I didn't go to the normal tourist areas. So when I landed here, I wasn't accepting no dollars. But the amount of things quoted in dollars have risen, especially when we're talking about real estate. I could barely find a real estate posting anywhere in pesos now. Everything is the USD, and I get it. That is the that is the goal, right? That's probably the audience they want to target. That's probably the audience that they think has the money to buy these properties. But goodness grief, please give some Dominicans a chance. At least quote them in both. Some of these places just straight up 80,000 USD, 90,000 USD, 250,000 USD. They're not even putting the equivalent in pesos. And I get it. I mean, it's 60 pesos per dollar. So you might be putting like 2 million, 3 million. And I do think this is heavily influenced by the amount of Dominican Americans, American tourists, American expats that want to buy property here. So they're trying to make the best pitch in the shortest amount of time by putting that price. But you got to ask, how does that affect the everyday Dominican? You know, you may be a youngin, up and coming, or you may be grown, but every time you see a property, it's in the USD. Got to be a bit intimidating, right? When you see something that's not even in your own currency, I don't think that gives off, hopeful vibes. I think that actually gives off the opposite. It kind of makes you think it's not obtainable, or even worse, that they building these buildings not even for the people here. So I definitely think this is a bad one. I definitely think this does more harm than good. I think for the average Dominican, they see that and it's discouraging, disheartening, or probably even worse, make them feel like a second-class citizen, make them feel like Americans are the real, citizens of this country, or prioritize at least because they get everything in their currency. They come in here, they able to do this, they able to do that, and now the dang real estate is all in USD. We don't understand these prices. So again, man, I think this one ain't it. I love seeing the ones that have both USD, pesos. Sometimes I do see some just in pesos, but I definitely think this one is a little too Americanized for me, and I think this one gotta change. All right, guys. Number 3 is gonna be food, man. Look, I'm gonna start off like this, man. The amount of food changes I've seen since I've started coming here. When I came here, man, it was locrio, it was mango, it was mofongo, it was pollo guisado, things like that. That's what I usually see. Now, of course, listen, I ain't too old, but it kind of was, you know what I'm saying? We were just getting up there with technology, and I really don't think Uber Eats existed. If it did, it definitely wasn't like a thing yet. We're talking about like 2017. So Uber Eats wasn't, maybe even 2016, actually, now that I think of it. But Uber Eats wasn't a thing back then. Pedidos Ya, Rappi, all this stuff really didn't exist. So let me tell you, when I open these dang apps, 2/3 of it is American type stuff. Pizza, cheeseburgers, all that crap. Big American breakfast or desayuno americano, the dang waffles and bacon, and half of it is American. And this one I think is maybe 2 or 3 fold. The first one being that American food is really easy to make. American food is really easy to make. A cheeseburger, dude, like you could slap that thing on the grill. You could throw some cheese on it, lettuce, tomato, whatever you want to do, put a bun, and then sell it for $10, $15. It's very easy, very lucrative. Anybody could get in the game. You know what I'm saying? I have a neighbor actually who almost every day I'm seeing, he asks me when I'm about one of his cheeseburgers. So it's very easy. It's low cost. The margin is kind of good, Maybe a burger in total costs like $1.50 with all the ingredients. So you can sell it for 10, 15. It's a nice little business. So I get that part of it. That's the good part. People are able to make money fast, make a nice little margin, put themselves in business. And mind you, on the opposite end, Dominican food takes forever. Takes everything. I've never seen a Dominican dish done in under like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's like an hour plus for some of this stuff, bro. When you're talking about pollo guisado, like pollo guisado is stewed chicken, guys. Stewed chicken. Stewing anything takes forever. Stewing anything takes forever, bro. Locrio, that thing is like 6 things in one, bro. You gotta take the chicken, you gotta make the rice, you gotta do this. Like all of this stuff, sancocho, oh my goodness, bro. Sancocho is like, I think it's maybe like 8 hours plus. It's like a soup. You gotta just marinate this thing for like 8 hours. You know how you put hard ingredients in a soup and then they become soft, like carrot, celery? That's how long you gotta put that thing in there, bro. It take hours and hours. So I think in a way it was a very logical move. Okay, I get it. It was very logical. Then on top of that, again, we got the tourists. We got the Dominican Americans who come here and they now want something fast. They want something convenient. They want something that feels like home. So they got options. They got the options because wherever there's tourists, there's money to be made, right? So you gotta be ready to feed that audience. You got Americans, you need American food. That's 2. And 3, guys, I think Dominican life is getting more complicated, especially out here in Santo Domingo. Guess what? When the prices go up, you need to work more. And since I moved here, I've seen people work like literally from the time I go to the gym, which may be like at 8 a.m. I may spin back to the supermarket at like 7 p.m. and I still see those same people working. So people are pulling 10-hour shifts here, 9-hour shifts here, easy. And I think now because things are going up, people have to work harder. they don't have that. They don't have the time they had back in the days where they could sit home and make all of these things. So I think it's a combination of everything. If I had to rate it, I think this one is gonna lean more to the good side. I think Dominican culture already has the food thing on lock. I don't think that's in jeopardy. I think by bringing in new foods, different foods, you're only setting up a bigger stage. Even when we talk about not just American food, Italian food, they're making like a Korean spot in the morning. So I think all in all, Americanizing the food or changing the food, internationalizing the food is a good thing. Oh my goodness, guys. Number 4 is nightlife. Oh my goodness, I hate it, bro. I hate it, bro. What's going on nightlife here should be illegal. You guys hear me talk about this a lot in the videos. When I talk about nightlife, I talk about the lounge spots. It's a VIP culture out here. It's bottle service culture. It's like literally copy and paste from America, maybe Europe if you want to go that way. But they definitely have taken that platform, taken that game plan, and done it on a whole nother level. Like usually in America, we got spots where there's sections and maybe like a little bit of space for the general public, or you walk around the sections. Here's basically all sections. Like some spots still have, you know, the second class citizen joint in the back where you could go if you're not getting a bottle. But for the most part, a lot of these spots you need a bottle. Granted, bottles aren't that expensive, so it's not that bad. But I just think about it health wise, like, or somebody like me who doesn't like to go out to drink every time, especially in that quantity when I'm drinking big bottles of freaking liquor. If it's maybe me, I'm going out with like one-on-one, or I'm going out with a boy. Like, come on, bro. I don't want to drink all this stuff. I don't want to drink all this stuff. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of spots, more, I guess, bars and stuff. But when we talk specifically about nightlife spots, the clubs, yeah, you're definitely going to get hit with a wave of Americanization, 7, 8 times in the bottles. You know, you guys heard about me getting straight up smashed in that club. They charged me like 6 times the amount of apple juice, had me in there paying $50 for like 3 bottles of juice. America all the way on that one. One thing I'm really thankful for is they ain't start the dress code stuff, because once they start that, I'm out of here. I'm cool paying what I gotta pay, but one thing where I just stopped partying in the U.S., I can't wear my hat. You guys know I love my hat. How I'm gonna be out here with no hat, bro? You can't wear this. You can't wear certain type of sneakers. They haven't started that crap out here, so that's a good thing. But all in all, I think the club nightlife culture is trash. I think it's it's separationist. Like it kills the whole social vibe. Like it just puts everybody in their own groups, and it just creates this whole anti-social vibe, man. And it's taking over the city like a freaking storm, man. I remember coming here and people were social, and I remember the rise of it, like when I went to Paris and stuff like that, where you just got these. It's not my thing. I think it's bad for the culture. I think it hurts the social aspect of Dominican culture, to be honest. All right, guys. Number 5. I think number 5 and number 6. I'm gonna say number 5, but number 5 is a funny one. It's fashion, guys. I laugh because, again, I'm from New York, right? So New York, we had a joke. I'm sorry, Dominicans, please don't kill me. But in New York, we had a joke. Maybe around like 2011, 2010. Like when we seen pictures of people in the DR, we would laugh because they were about, literally, we could put a number on it how far back they were fashion wise from us. Like we would be like, all right, it became a time in New York where Jordans weren't good. You could not wear Jordans. You could wear Composites. You could wear Air Force Ones. Winter you could wear Timbs. You could wear all that, but Jordans were no good. You were considered like a bad dresser if you had on Jordans during like a 5-year period. And literally, you gotta remember, a lot of Dominicans in New York, and what used to happen was they would send cajas back home with their old clothes. So Dominicans would send clothes back to their people, right? And they was obviously putting in these things they ain't wear no more, which was Jordans. So maybe like 2010, every picture we seen of a Dominican or a Dominican who just got to the New York or the U.S., they had on Jordan. They had a whole outfit on from like 2006. This was, what I'm saying, back in the golden days of fashion too in New York. But they would have a 2006 outfit on, and it would be like 2011. So we used to just laugh, what I'm saying? We wasn't making fun of them. It was just funny because they would have on top to bottom what we used to wear. Now those days are gone. Those days are gone. They out here. They got Essential. They got Fear God. What's the Godspeed? Mary. They be on us at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if they got some stuff that we not even wearing yet out here, man. The fashion here has completely, did a 180. Now, ain't no laughing. Like, they step for step. They got everything, bro. New Jordans, any number of Jordans back, they already on it. You know what I'm saying? So, it's just crazy to see it today how much of the American fashion has crossed over to recent times and how much, you know what I'm saying, they have adapted to it. So fashion now completely Americanized, good or bad. I'm gonna say good. I'm gonna say good. You know what I'm saying? I can't see anything bad about it. I mean, what I want them to wear, like the Dominican outfit with the red and white and blue joint. Like you gotta update. You gotta update yourself with the fashion. Only thing I can say is like you got the consumerism aspect, but I don't think it's that deep here. Because again, there ain't no Fear God store here. There ain't no. I think they got maybe one Nike store here. So, you know, I think they get everything on a bargain if you ask me. But all in all, that is one huge change I've seen, and again, I don't think it's that bad. Guys, number 6, and we touched on this, but I'm gonna just, you know what I'm saying, I gotta throw it in there because it's important, and that's work culture. When I first got here, you know, meeting people, it was chill. It's still chill, don't get me wrong, it's still chill. But I could feel the energy going up. I could feel the hustle and bustle, so to say, maxing out now. Like it's hitting new levels. And if you guys see my store video with the prices, for freaking food nowadays, you will get why. You gotta work. You gotta work 2 times, 3 times harder because the food prices are going up like crazy. Rent prices are going up, guys. I'm telling you. I think my next video is gonna be a neighborhood video where I'll show you guys kind of what you could get in each neighborhood, the price of everything. But oh my goodness, it's not like before, guys, where you could just here get a spot for like $400 and just be good. $400 now is not getting you as much as it did 5 years ago. 6, that's done. So price of everything going up. You got to keep your eye on that. Work more. I think that is one of the biggest things that can threaten a culture like DR, where not that people weren't working before, but when I thought of DR, I always thought of balance. When I think of islands, for the most part, I always think of balance. People who, you know, have the luxury of not having to push themselves so hard on a work end because of the culture, a little slower, paces a little bit, you know what I'm saying, more relaxed. But it seems like that is slowly going away, which I think is a bad thing. As number 7 is Uber. Uber. I'm laughing because I remember this one like it was yesterday. 2016. Uber ain't out here yet. 2017. Uber ain't out here yet. So he had to go ahead and get charged whatever we got charged, and you know what I'm saying, make it happen. And I just think about that like it was yesterday, because now Uber is like the dominant form of transportation. No matter who I ask here, for the most part, people take Uber. People don't even take the metro. People don't drive. Like, people drive, obviously, but I think the common person here, they don't drive. They just take Uber everywhere. So definitely something I've seen explode as far as, you know, Americanization goes. You ain't going to find a point that's, I think, more relevant than that. And definitely think another one that's a mixed bag, guys. On one hand, I think it's good because you give people options. The option to get in a car instead of having to walk maybe 10 to 15 blocks to the train station. Because the train stations out here aren't like they are in Manhattan. Manhattan, you got a 42nd Street and a 34th Street. You walk 8 blocks, you good. Here, you may be walking a mile to that thing, man. So it's definitely different, and it's giving people who, you know, don't have cars more options to get around. On the other hand, the thing that scares me about Uber is that American companies like Uber, they love bait and switch. So that gets you addicted to using a product, and I don't know where that changes. So thankfully, Uber prices out here are still amazing, still great, but the only thing that worries me about Uber is that people may depend on it too much, get hooked, and you know what I'm saying, get caught lacking. So that's the bad thing about Uber out here. But besides that, I think overall culturally it's cool. It's good. Ain't no bad thing about it. So guys, that was about 6 or 7 things that I've noticed has changed since I've been coming to the DR. It's been a crazy 10 years. I mean, in 10 years, you need to expect a lot to change, but a lot of these things are deeply rooted to American culture. So what do you think? Or what do you think? Do you think America's role in the DR is maybe becoming too big? And how much of this is due to the Dominican diaspora? How much of this is due to tourists and expats? I want to know your opinions, guys. Also, out of everything I said, which one do you think has the most negative impact on the everyday Dominican? Let me know below, guys. I need to know, and we need to have a conversation about this because it feels like nobody is talking about it. So let me know below. Let's start the conversation up. Send us to a friend, write a comment, but please remember, I'm just giving you the lay of the land. It's your boy, Check It. Do it on YouTube, not YouTube.